Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Just want to welcome you guys to our Business on Purpose Masterclass today. Come on in. If you would, go ahead and throw your camera on. Love being able to see everybody, see where you're located, and make sure your speaker is on mute. A lot of times we get background noise. We had somebody in the supermarket recently that was grabbing groceries. So make sure your camera's on and your mic is muted. We will get going here in about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. So thank you guys again for being here. Mindy, that's okay. We'll overlook it this one time. Hey, while you're here, one of our core values at Business on Purpose is big wins. If you've been on one of these master classes before, we always ask for a big win, either personal or professional. So there's a chat window down here at the bottom of your screen. If you want to throw those in, throw in a big win for us. Would love to read some of those out loud before we get started and just celebrate with you wherever you are. Also, wouldn't mind knowing where you're located. If you are here, we got John Caulfield today from Granite Bay, California, outside Sacramento. So we are all over the country and looking forward to having you guys in here just for a little bit. So go ahead and throw a big win in the chat window. Tell us where you're from, where you're kind of logging in from today. And again, we'll get going here in about 2 minutes. John McBroom from Knoxville. Got some great friends up that way. It's awesome. Mindy from Houston, Texas. I love it. Tish from Clearwater, Florida, all over the country. This is going to be a blast. Richard Price from Houston. Richard, I've heard your name. Let me see. Where is Richard? There he is. Welcome to the BOP family. It's going to be a great journey. So really excited that you're hopping on today. Carlos, welcome from LA. Rachel, welcome from Virginia. Glad you're here. And we got a few more people entering. I'm going to give it about 1 more minute before we dive in and get started. And John Caulfield and I have been working together for about 1.5 years now. And so it's been a lot of fun getting to work alongside him and his team. And he's got some great stuff to share with us today. He's a veteran of the Buildertrend system. All right, if you got a big win, again, go ahead and throw it on in the chat window. Would love to celebrate with you. Nobody's throwing big wins in right now. Nobody wants us to celebrate. That's all right. Again, if you are just logging on, throw your camera on so we can see your beautiful face, see where you're logging in from, and make sure you are on mute. That way, if somebody hops in and says something embarrassing, you don't get called out for it. I'll call you out. Awesome. All right, we still got people coming in. I'm going to let us get to critical mass here, and then we're supposed to have about 50 people join us today, so pretty excited for a great group of people. If you want the slides after this, I'm happy to send them to you. And so please just, shoot me an email after this. I can get them to you. Jesse can get them to you, whatever's easiest there. So awesome. Hey, again, if you just joined us, welcome. Go ahead and throw your name in the chat. And I guess we got your name, but throw where you're logging in from. Would love to know where everybody's coming from today. Awesome. All right, I think we got one from Texas. John Kelly from Charleston, South Carolina, my hometown. Grew up in Mount Pleasant, John. It's a great spot there. A couple more from Texas. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. We're going to give it 30 seconds. Still got people popping in. If your camera works, we'd love to see your face while we're here. Again, go ahead and mute yourself if you don't mind. That'd be great. All right. 3 more people just hopped into the waiting room. All right, awesome. Well, I will continue letting people in as this thing gets going, but I want to welcome you guys. My name is Thomas Joyner. I'm the Director of Coaching and one of our coaches here at Business on Purpose. And I get super, super excited to wake up every single morning with the sole purpose of liberating business owners from chaos so they can make time for what matters most. If you've been around here at all, you know that that's our mission statement and really why we host these masterclasses. And so one of the things that we have realized is that one of the best ways to do that is to provide clarity with a lot of the tools that you guys end up using. And so knowing that we work with about 80% of our clients that we work with are contractors that are in the building space, and whether that be residential, commercial, you name it. And what we've realized is that there's a lot of lack of clarity around Buildertrend. And there's a lot of lack of clarity around whatever project management tool that you end up using. So today, I do want to welcome John Caulfield. He is a wizard on so many of these things. And so he's going to show you how he uses Buildertrend for job costing and walk you through a couple of the important things that he does there. He's going to give you a chance to ask some questions. And so let me give you a little preview today. Again, John Caulfield, Landmark Builders. He is out of Granite Bay, California, which is just outside of Sacramento. John, if I butcher anything here, please let me know. But builds some incredible homes. They have about 8 projects going at any given time. Their kind of average contract values between kind of $1.5 and $2 million. And so they do some incredible, incredible work. He has doubled down on his mission, vision, core values. Those drive everything that he does. He is process driven from start to finish. And he leads an incredible team of 6 or 7, John. How many total?
I think we're about 8 now.
Oh, 8 now. There we go. So 8 total people doing some incredible stuff out there. So you will have some time to ask him some questions. Let me give you a quick flyover and some of the ideal outcomes of today. So number 1, I want you to be able to use the software that you're paying for. One of the things we talk about is why we use spreadsheets so much is I want you to prove to me that you can do what needs to be done on a spreadsheet before we give you permission and say, great, go buy a project management software, CRM, whatever it ends up being there. And so the first thing I want is so many people are buying Buildertrend, they're paying for it monthly, and they have no idea what they're doing with it, or they don't know how to maximize it. And so a lot of times they'll get on with Buildertrend, and it's great from a high level, and you get a lot of these concepts, but all right, what are just builders doing in the day-to-day, and how are they using it today specifically to talk about job costing? Second thing I hope you come away with is clarity around pricing and your job costing, right? I just want you to know what is it we're trying to accomplish, and do I have clarity around that with every single project that we have? Third thing, a plan for implementation. I don't want you just to take this and it be a tool that you hang on the wall and you say, yeah, we know how to job cost, but we never actually do it. No, what is our checklist? When are we bringing this back up? Do we have a job costing meeting? Do we have a marketing and sales meeting that we bring some of this back up and then we reintroduce it back into our estimating and bidding? What are the steps to take it from concept to implementation? We quote Jim Calloway all the time. He says, vision without implementation is hallucination. I don't want you just to see it. I want you to take it. I want you to do something with it at the end of the day. So we're going to start, and I'm going to ask some of you to be brave here in just a little bit. Like, what have some of your headaches been with job costing? Like, what are you frustrated by? And some of this is, I know that John's kind of got his things he wants to go through today, but I want to make sure that this is kind of custom tailored to this group of people. So what have been some of your headaches real quick? We'll take some notes on them and we'll come back to them at the end of the call. So can somebody come off mute and just give us some headaches with job costing? All right, we got Adriana, hopefully I'm not butchering that. I apologize if I am. You mentioned, sorry, it just went in there, late bids from subcontractors. Absolutely. That's a huge one. Mindy, employees' time. Mindy, can you come off mute and give us a little bit of what do you mean by employees' time?
Just that I don't get their time look into the job like it needs to be.
Yes, absolutely. Their time into the job. That's great. Let's see. I got John Kelly's in the medical field. That's okay. No problem at all. What else? Any other headaches that we need to dive in on today? All right. Price change. Yes, we will nail that. Absolutely. Managing subquotes, requesting changes, and managing their corrected quotes. Yep. That's going to be step 2 for John today. So let me come back to my presentation here real quick and walk back through this real quick. All right. So we talked a little bit about headaches with job costing. Here's the first step we're going to talk about is inputting the estimate, making sure we get that right in Buildertrend. Second step we're going to talk about today is revised costs and what do we actually do with change orders, right? And what do we do with some of those tweaks that happen there? And then the third step is what do we do in using that information? We talked about that. When we get it all, how do we know it's right? How do we know what to do with it? And we're going to give you some time to ask questions here at the end. So, John, I'm going to let you start sharing. And we're going to start on inputting estimates into Buildertrend and what exactly you do with that.
Okay. Good. Well, I was going to say good morning, everybody. It's probably morning for everybody at this point. I'm on the West Coast. But the only thing I'll add to the introduction portion of this is that we do custom homes and large-scale remodels. We don't really do kitchens, bathrooms, but we do whole house remodels. And we are a fixed price builder. So everybody does a little differently, cost plus, whatever. So for the most part, I'm a fixed price builder. And so we have developed our job costing with that in mind. So we do our estimating in Buildertrend. We request bids through Buildertrend to our trade partners. Our trade partners submit bids through Buildertrend. Now, that being said, a lot of the old guys don't necessarily want to do it through Buildertrend, so they'll email us their estimates. We then load them into Buildertrend and build our estimate, in Buildertrend. I was going to just kind of click on one here on concrete foundation as an example. So in this case, we got a bid from a subcontractor. This is an old school subcontractor, so he sent it to us on paper. We scanned it in. Here's his estimate. And let's see here, for some reason, I can't. Let's see, here we go. We put in his estimate and that loads the bid. In this case, we sometimes add a little buffer. We call it a buffer, but sometimes we self-perform a certain part of a trade, or in this case, we know he helps us out and he digs our interior footings in a foundation and he always adds a little bit. So we throw $1,500 on top of it. Those can get combined into one slot if you're sharing the estimate with your client, and so they won't see that. And basically then we build the estimate. There's two ways to do profit and overhead. You can do it by line item. Since we're a fixed price builder, we lump it at the end. That tends to help us with our allowances. So we don't have a markup on the allowances. We mark up the whole project, and then we can share the estimates, that type of thing, in allowances, which makes it a lot easier. So our profit and overhead is added down here is actually a line item, just like your concrete bid. And then that builds our budget. And as you can see up here, it builds the client price. In this case, this is a $1.9 million build. We have an estimated 17% margin, and there's our cost. And then once the estimate is locked, it pushes everything over into the budget that we use during construction, which then kicks off the project. So that's how we build the estimate. Some of these up here, like in the 100s, the general conditions, we don't get bids for, so we just have historical data that we build. We don't really use the widgets a whole lot because we don't self-perform, so we basically get estimates for everything and build our budgets off of our subcontractors' estimates. So, you can also self-perform and just build it a little differently in here, but that's how we do it.
Hey, John, can I ask you to expand on one thing there? You mentioned general conditions, and I think there's always maybe some indecision on what do we include in general conditions? How do we know what's in there and where, could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, through our Builder 20 group and learning over the years is how do you increase your margin? And so the more things you can get, above the line, then you're getting markup on markup. So for instance, here we have a job supervision number, and then we're actually getting a markup on that job supervision. So we do general liability insurance up here. Looks like in this case we didn't, but on most of them we put in general liability insurance. We always say general liability is like lumber. It's a dollar cost incurred item. If I don't build your house, I don't incur that cost. So trying to get as much items above the line helps your overall margin in a project. So we do a lot of things like equipment rental, materials protection. All of those things just kind of help you maintain your margin more than anything. In the end, if there's little things pop up, you have a little bit of room to maintain that margin.
It's great.
Did that
Thank you.
answer your question?
Yep, it's perfect.
And then in the end, that builds the budget. And so this is a custom home where we are in the MEPs right now, so we're just underway. This is the legacy budget. I'm old school. I move a little faster in the legacy budget. There is the new budget that Buildertrend has come out with, which is the job costing budget. This is actually better, and we will be moving towards this and using this view. And down here, there's a standard view. We modified it and have a landmark view for the things we want to see. But this allows you to track more towards your margin, which helps you maintain metrics with your project managers and hold them to a margin. You don't really see an active margin in the other one as you build, but this is a whole new view from them. And today I'm going to be more in the legacy budget just because I'm faster moving around it. But this is a great new tool that Buildertrend came up with, and we're moving to it next year. There's no difference. You don't change anything. Both of them are visible inside of Buildertrend for you.
Mm-hmm. I did want to highlight one thing John talked about there, and it's adding items above the line. I think a lot of times people ask, God, my cost of goods is getting out of control. You know what I mean? Like you're looking, you're going, all right, 86 cents of every dollar, 87, 88 cents of every dollar is going directly to subs and materials. And one of the things we've worked really hard on is getting John's cost of goods down so that then his markup and margin can actually increase there. And some of you may be looking, going, man, how do you get your margins there? Well, it takes him getting detailed on the things that he can include as a direct job cost, that then he can take his markup from there versus what a lot of us do is just not get super detailed on that stuff. And so we end up eating the cost versus passing that off and then marking it up so that we can actually protect our markup and our margin there. John, would you agree? You want to add anything there?
No, absolutely. And I think it's just over time you get more and more detailed in your estimate. And the thing I really like about the job costing in Buildertrend is it's completely transparent to the whole team,
Yep.
and everybody can be held accountable. And when someone says, hey, this doesn't make sense, all the information is there. You can see the original bid. If there's a revised cost, you know why there's a revised cost. And we pull these up every Monday morning in our production meeting, and you just run through the budget. And when you run through the budget and the number's off, you can dive right in and figure out what happened. It's something might have just been labeled wrong or put in the wrong category, but you can find it quickly. And there's not a lot of work at the end of the project. Back in the day, we would have to spend all this time at the end to try and reconcile everything and figure out the final bill and all that. And it's all just there. And the job price summary for the owners is amazing. They can see everything as well. So the more detail, garbage in, garbage out, the more detail you have, the easier it is to manage. And our questions, concerns about money with the clients have just gone away because it's dealt with in the sequence of the build.
That's good. One of the quotes we love is clients can handle bad information. They can't handle surprises. They can handle bad information. So, and that's why the clarity in your pricing and the transparency in pricing is so important. Because, all right, if they get bad news, something's more expensive, that's fine. What that can't happen is they're surprised by that down the road somewhere. And I think that's where John's nailed that. So let me open this up for questions real quick. What questions on the estimate piece do you guys have in Buildertrend? If you want to throw those in the chat window, or if you want to come off mute and ask one, we're going to pause here for about 60 seconds and take a couple questions before we move on to step 2. Mark, I saw you maybe trying to ask a question. Was that you coming off mute? Are you okay?
Yeah,
right.
I'm trying to get my video on.
There you go.
I've had trouble getting my login and set up here. So
did you have a question or no?
Right now, no?
Okay. All right. We got a question from Walter. John, what is your markup?
Okay. So the age-old question between markup and margin, the most complicated discussion, we use margin, not markup. So we're based off of a 15% margin, which is a 17.75, something like that markup. And then we try and put 2% above the line in that job supervision you can see here. And then the interesting thing is you can see here that has been zeroed out once we signed a contract in our mind because it's really just margin. We don't do hourly billings with our people against the cost. So we basically are trying to work on a 17% margin, 15% margin plus a 2%, job supervision, something like that. It just seems to be hard in our market to ask for more than 15%. So we just try and do that by having things above the line. And we found, just that you got to get up into the 17, 18% margin to really make the numbers work well. Did I answer that question properly?
Yeah, I think so.
John, what do you mean when you say above the line?
So above the line means, you take all of your job costs and then people add their markup to it. So if you can get some non-related construction costs above the line, which means up here in pre-construction, so like for instance, the job supervision. So in our estimate to the client, when we go back to the estimate, there's $40,000 for job supervision. Then that $40,000 gets marked up again. So everything you can get above the line, insurance, some people do cell phones, trucks. We don't go to that level, but anything you can get above the line is going to help your bottom line because then you end up marking that up as well.
If you look at the top right of the screen too, where it says builder cost plus profit equals client price, everything that would be considered above the line is going to be in that builder cost of 1.581120. And so that is a direct job cost that is getting passed off to the client. And then the margin is added to it. But he's still got to run his business off of everything that says profit. You would look at it and go, well, all right, is that his profitability? No, he's still got to do, lots of different things with that. And that's why he said that's the difference in markup and margin, right? Is there's still things that he has to run his business off of that are not direct costs, truck expense, fuel, like all these little things that get added in there. Marketing, like all that that's not a direct job cost, but it's all stuff in there that takes away from the gross profit and then leads you to the bottom line right there.
I still don't understand the distinction of above the line. If it seems like everything's above the line.
Okay, so let's think of that you're presenting a budget to a client. They see all of this, they see all the job costs, lumber, HVAC, etc. Then they see your markup and your margin below the line. So if you can get some of your costs up in those lumber costs, etc., and have those line items like insurance and supervision, a lot of people put that below where you're not getting the markup on it. Like so basically above the line means it's in your job costs, where it's not the profit and overhead at the end. That typical spreadsheet you show a client shows the markup and the profit and overhead, however you want to break up your markup at the bottom of the estimate.
Got it.
Down here, profit and overhead, builder profit, project overhead. The reason these are showing at 0 in here now is because I pull them out and show that margin for me up here. That's how I get this number up here to 17%. When we flip over to the job costing budget and you see this at 17%. I showed the client 15%, ended up at 17%. It's showing that I'm 4% under on this project right now. And that is because of we have an allowance here for rough lumber, and we're running over on rough lumber at the moment. We haven't closed the allowance yet, which will then rectify that and get me back to my 17%. We'll get into all that in a minute.
Richard put in there, add an allocation of Buildertrend's annual fee to each job above the line. That's a great way to get that into your cost of goods. Love that. Like if you know you're going to do 8 jobs that year and Buildertrend's fee is whatever, or whatever your other subscriptions are, you can throw that into administrative or, project management software and have line items in there that then get marked up. So absolutely. All right, let's keep moving a little bit and we can come back to some questions. Hold on to some of those questions. I want to make sure that we stay steady moving here. So John, do you want to take it and talk about some of the revised costs here for just a few minutes?
Yes, or I'll follow up on that concrete one we showed earlier. So when I'm looking at this budget, the most important thing over here is your compare columns. What are you trying to look at? So I always want to look at the original estimate versus my revised costs. And the only reason that this number should change, the revised costs, the way that we have Buildertrend set up, is either a change order or an allowance selection by the owner. The estimate here is all locked. When you sign a contract, these numbers won't change. So this is my current number here, revised costs. And why would anything change in that? There's only 2 reasons that should change in our company, is a change order or a selection by the owner. So since we haven't, this job is, in its first third of construction, but we are working on some selections. For instance, last night, our owner made a selection. Let me get down here to wood floors. So here's a change, right? $30,000 allowance for wood floors. And last night I got an alert on my phone that the owners approved their wood floors. So here's the revised cost of $28,801. So that basically then goes to the job price summary, where their whole contract just went down by $2,000 because they selected their hardwood floors. So what does that look like? Over here, the selections is our allowances. We'll go down to wood floors. We had been working with the designer to pick out their wood floors. We're not even sheetrocked yet, but we were working with it. So we work through the estimates. We then, in this case, we have the designer sign off on the estimate. So the owner sees that Denise, the designer, agreed this is what we all agreed upon. Here is the estimate. So the owner feels comfortable that the color's right. and then the owner electronically signs off on this, and that changes the budget automatically. And so when you look here, you can see they had a $30,000 allowance, and the owner has signed off. This has just changed everything for us from a tracking perspective. And it automatically changes, the billing to the client, everything. And so now, today, this morning, after that got signed last night, I got a deposit invoice from from the vendor. So now we can, get that deposit and have the wood secured so that when it'll be in his warehouse and ready to go for us. So there's an example on the budget of how that changed. And that's why that number was revised. Also, if I go back to that concrete one, you saw that one where we had the estimate and then we had a little buffer on it. So in this case, you can see, because this wasn't a selection, the revised cost didn't change. The cost came in a touch under. And if I click this check mark off, we were $330 under budget on that line item, but we're done. So I can click complete, and then that 330 goes to me as additional profit. The part I like about this too is if there's any question of what this means or how it works, you can click on the actual bills that came in, and they're here. So you can go look right at the bill. And in this case, as I mentioned before, he held his contract price. You saw that earlier in the estimate, but he does charge me for those plumbing trenches. And I kind of, over time, I know how much that's going to cost in general. I'd guess $1,500. It came in at around $1,200. And then you can see here, we have a stamp and we have somebody initial it and cost code it. We can get into that later. But so you can go back and you can see everything. You can track everything. Anybody can investigate, whether someone's been paid or not paid. And the detail is just amazing. And then there is one glitch with Buildertrend where you can't go to the job price summary without clicking out of. So let me click into this. This I love. Owner can see this on their view. Contract price is 1.9 million. Here's their selections to date. Over, under, wherever they're at. So they're $7,000 over on their selections. We've had no change orders on this job. I've received 600,000 in payments. It's all visible. So 1.9, they're over by 7, no change orders. Their new contract is $7,000 higher. They've paid me this much and they owe me that much. So all of this, is all just tied together and works wonderfully. Now, it's a little bit different for everybody if you're cost plus or everybody can run their business a little differently inside of the same system. There's always little workarounds to get there.
Hey, John, would you talk through how you communicate that last thing you showed with your clients? Because I think one of the things we talk about with no surprises and just a client experience piece is making sure that your clients are up to date on where they're at on their budget all along the way. And they're not getting 3 months along and going, wait, we didn't know that we were 4% over or 8% or whatever it ends up being. So you want to talk through how you communicate that with your clients and use the job costing piece for that?
Yeah, so first of all, in Buildertrend, as most of you know probably, there's a little home button here. If I click on this, it takes me to the owner's website. So here's the owner's website. This is what they see when they log in. And the first thing they see is their contract price, their selections, and their new contract price. So they can't get a daily log or log in to look at a selection without seeing the numbers. So that's first step. And then just trying to communicate. We do a monthly financial call with our client to make sure they know what's coming, where we're at, and we do the daily logs, all that stuff. So that keeps them all up to date. And there is a button here for the job price summary. Whenever someone asks me, like, where are we at? I always tell them, go to the job price summary, go to the job price summary. And it just really helps to make it clear. And there's just so many less questions with all of this information there. So that's pretty much how we do it. And it's pretty clear. It's really taken a lot of the angst out about the money.
It's good. All right. What questions do we have on this revised cost, change orders, tracking overs, unders, all of that? Like what questions do we have here? Feel free to come off mute real quick.
One quick question is, do you rely on this Buildertrend to memorialize all your change orders, or do you have does it generate a change order contract that has to be signed separately?
I'll jump to another job. This is a job we just completed. the change orders look very similar to the selections that you see. So this job here had 9 change orders, and the owner signs off on those change orders electronically, just like an allowance. So here's the change order. I could go to the client preview. This was what the client saw, that, okay, we have a 24 kW generator and transfer switch, all wiring for generator, and $500 for plumbing. And it is submitted to them electronically, and they sign off on it the same way. And then it populates automatically into the job price summary. I can go to the owner's side and see what it looks like from there. So here, this was interesting. They spent 90,000 in change orders, but were under by 65,000 in their selections, and we're very close to their original contract price. So if I go to change orders here, it's going to look like 0 because they were all approved. Go down to that. No, that was a whole house fan credit. Wrong one. Find that generator. There's the generator. So this was electronically approved here by Karen and Mark Wolf on January 28th, and then it automatically populates into their job price summary. So it's very similar sign off to the selection. We build the change order, and these we do mark up, individually, because these weren't part of the original contract. So here we had a 17.65% markup, which gets our 15% margin. This shows up in the job costing budget. The rest just goes to profit. So we track against that 13,000. And if I go back over to the budget, I hope I'm not moving too fast. I didn't actually check which cost code that was, but it was most likely 405. Yeah, so if you look here, the original estimate in electrical was 36. Then the revised cost was 53. Why? Well, you go down and there were 2 change orders in there for $17,000. One of those change orders was that $13,000 generator, and they had another change order for $4,100. So you can really see everything. The key columns are these 2 columns: estimate, revised cost. Why is it higher? You click on it and you can see why. Oh, we had 2 change orders. That's the difference. And then you can look to see how you did against it, etc.
It's great. Is your margin the same on change orders there, John?
Great question. We kind of do it. Every change order is unique. If it's a $400 item and it takes us 12 hours to do it, we might charge them $1,200, and that's way more than a 15%. So we just, it's case by case.
Yep.
Sometimes it's less if it's really, we're trying to, please the client for something, or, it's all about the process and how everyone's feeling and what's happening. But in general, 15% would be our least amount.
I think that's an important thing to note right there. To protect your schedule and to protect your margin, you have got to find a way to make those change orders profitable for you, because they're going to slow your schedule down a lot of times, which then adds to your overhead on the job. And so you have, especially when you're fixed price, you have got to find a way to make those worth your while and not cost you on your profitability side. So we got a question from Richard. John, are you paperless in respect to your sub and vendor invoices?
That's a great question. Sub and vendor invoices. I would say no, we are not. Some of the stuff we do, we are old school, where we stamp the invoice and someone initials it. We're paperless in how we receive it. We're paperless in how we store it. We're paperless in how we track it. But we still print it and stamp it because I want to see who approved that invoice and when. And the way we have it set up right now is our office manager, we don't use POs. A lot of people use POs. I feel like this system right here is almost the same as using a PO, because the office manager can get that invoice, look at it, and she can see and hear how much we paid him and what the contract was. And if it's within those parameters, she approves it and doesn't even have to go to the PM. As soon as something looks off to her, it's going to take it over that contracted amount. Then she puts it in a folder for the PM to look at, and the PM can decide why, and if they need to add a change order, forgot to add a change order or something. So we're 85% paperless, still do a touch with paper. I hope that helped answer that question.
That's good. I think one of the things I love about John is how process driven their business is. Like, a lot of times you can do things a different way. just know what you're trying to accomplish, build a process out and follow that process. Like he mentioned, hey, we may get this, but they print them out, they stamp them because he wants to know who approved those invoices. They have an invoice approving process that they run everything through, and that gets them the information that they need. You may do it differently, but make sure you know what you're trying to produce through that process and make sure that you follow it and can track it and hold the team accountable to it. So that's great. All right, we're going to move on to this last piece. John, what do you do with all this? At the end of the job, you've closed out the job. What are you looking at from a job cost perspective? How do you then go and update your estimating for next time? Like, what are you grabbing? Job autopsy, any of that stuff would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll back up a tiny bit. And one other thing that we get out of all of this is just tight numbers. And the fact that the team looks at it together once a week is awesome, because we find you're going through it and all of a sudden something will happen like, hey, the roofing's at 80% and we haven't even papered it yet. Then it's just a red flag. Something's wrong. And you can look at it and go, oh, something got entered from another job by accident, just got coded wrong. And your books are just much cleaner, tighter, all the way through, which then means the information at the end is much more valuable. So it's just the clarity of always knowing your numbers are right and being able to see where they're at. And so from there, we do job autopsy. So for the job autopsy, we'll say, we have a little form we'll fill out where, what are the top 3 items we made money on? What are the top 3 items we missed on and why? You can start to see trends in we're always getting hit for change orders from the plumber. Why is that? What do we need to change in our process to not get hit? So then we go back to our estimating process and we add something to our scope of work that we've got hit with 3 times that we kept missing in the scope of work. So now that will fix that problem. It's added to the scope of work. It'll be in the next bid. And the next level is we are going to start using that new budget from Buildertrend and start tracking the margin and being able to do metrics for our PMs and hold them more accountable to the margin as you go, which is way more important than at the end to look back and see how you did. It's kind of too late at that point. So yeah, the job autopsies just help you on your estimating in order to average your trash cost, per the size of your house, or average your toilet cost per month, or, try and catch all of that stuff and not lose percentage. Slippage kills you if you lose 1 or 2 points on a job. We're trying to gain 1 or 2 points on a job, not lose 1 or 2 points on a job.
I love that. I don't know what phrase you use. Some people use slippage, some use melt. There's a lot of words that you can use for that, but where did we estimate the job? And then where did we come in at? And do we have a meeting on the back end of that to get our whole team in there? And all right, what could we have done better? What could we have looked ahead more and set ourselves up well on? So often it's just on to the next job. We don't even really know what we made money on. We just kind of think we made some money as long as there's cash in the bank, and we don't get the answers that we're looking for. So we can't prevent any of those problems in the future from happening. So that's great there, John. Anything else you would add on that, John?
No, I think a lot of it too is the transparency on the team and holding other people accountable, so that it's not just the success of the job is the client experience, obviously, and the end product and all of that. But I sort of feel like we're all good builders out there. We wouldn't be with BOP. We wouldn't be on this conference call. So we probably are, build a nice house and produce a nice experience, but we got to make money. With all the risks we have in this business, we got to make money. And so it's tracking the numbers and paying attention to the numbers and understanding where you missed and how, and then changing a process to fix it. So the job costing is so critical with our world. And then the transparency of, any person in the company can dive in if you're dealing with some invoice or return or some bill comes in. Anybody can go figure it out because it's all there.
That's good. All right. If you have any questions for John and you would like to come off mute, this is where I'm going to open it up here just for a few more minutes. We are almost right about our 45-minute mark that we try to keep these things under. So go ahead.
I have
any questions?
Two questions. One of the big things that's a challenge with surprises and bad news is structural engineering. When they have to make changes in the middle of the job and they have to make corrections and things. Do you handle those costs just like any other subcontractor where they're your sub and you do a markup on their work?
That's an interesting question. Let me switch jobs here for some reason. Every job has its own nuance, and this one, the guy happens to be an engineer, so I took the engineering cost off of this job. But if I switch over here, we're all about the client experience. So in our world, we always know that, and everybody's business is different, but in our world, we know we're going to have to get a couple of letters from an engineer in order to fix a couple of unforeseen problems. So we throw $2,500 in the budget, and that means in this case, we ended up with $1,600 of engineering that popped up. We did not have to go to the owner for a change order. We did not have to do anything, and we were able to make that pain point go away for this client. And we made $825 because we didn't use it all. So that doesn't deal with a big structural change like having to add a beam or something, but it deals with, in our market, we know historically we're going to have some little engineering things pop up, and we don't want to have to hit our client with that disappointment. So that's how we deal with that in this case. We did not have to do a change order. If something pops up and there's some $8,000 beam, it's an $8,000 or a $9,000 change order. But it's all about the client experience and trying to mitigate those surprises.
So it sounds like your answer is yes, you do have like the markup, just like any other subcontractor for if big engineering things come up.
Absolutely.
And my last question is, you talked about end of job analysis and looking at the finances. Does Buildertrend integrate with QuickBooks? Do you use QuickBooks or something like it, or does this take the place of that?
No, this is synced with QuickBooks automatically. So that's the other beauty, right? Is a lot of times you don't want to let your whole team into your QuickBooks and they see your balance sheet and all of that. So this enables the whole team to see the job costing, which is what you're trying to hold people accountable for and you're trying to manage towards. And then all of this information syncs back to our QuickBooks. But in the QuickBooks, we don't have to have the lumber and the this and the that. It just kind of goes more into cost of goods sold account and that kind of thing. But I just really like the fact that you can be completely transparent with your team as you're trying to fight the fight every day, but nobody has access to QuickBooks except for the bookkeeper.
Mark, I think it's helpful, and John and I have done this with his team. We have a conversation called "A dollar is not a dollar," because your team sees, all right, we're about to take a $250,000 draw, or whatever the draw amount is, and they're like, well, John's getting rich off this, and you laugh and you go, well, I can show you my margin on this, right? Of 84 cents on every dollar is going right back out the door to pay for lumber and subs and whatever it ends up being. And then we still have to run our business off of the rest of that. And then we still have to pay taxes on that. And so you start getting down to the net. It's like, if we don't make a mistake, we might make 4, 5, 6 pennies on every dollar that comes in. And so I do think the transparency helps with the team aspect too, because they're not just sitting here thinking, well, John's making $1.6 million off of this house. And he's going, we're making a tiny fraction of that, and explaining some of that to the clients as well. So, yeah.
And with Thomas's help on this, in our corporate meeting, our annual meeting, we did put 100 pennies on a table, and we had the team pull 85 pennies away. And then we said, and then here's the salaries, and they pulled 8 more pennies, and then here's this, and we pulled that, and here's our marketing, and here's our insurance, and all this, and there were 4 pennies left on the table, or 5 pennies left on the table, and it's very eye-opening, and it helps.
It's good. All right, last question from Richard. Hey, John, he wants to know, can you describe your org chart for your 8 employees, identifying your admin people and what they do? John's got a unique one, and so his will be good to hear, but the person and people that manage Buildertrend and the accounting side there. So maybe org chart, what your admin team does, and who manages this of your team.
Okay, I'll do my best shot here. So we operate with 2 project managers, and we try to run 8 jobs, so 4 jobs per project manager. There is a superintendent that is out there and a laborer that's out there, and those 2 guys help the 2 project managers. That's kind of the field side. In the office, we have a director of pre-construction. She is kind of a C-level person who does all of our sales and all of our lead work and brings everything to contract. She's fabulous. And then we have one person in the office who is an estimator / selections coordinator. And his job is half Buildertrend, loading those selections you saw with the hardwood floor, managing all of the bids coming in. He helps with our estimating. When all the bids come in, he's loading all of this into Buildertrend on the front side before we sign a contract. We've just recently hired a director of operations who's going to help me run the company. We have a part-time bookkeeper who runs our QuickBooks. She's part-time, and we have a full-time office manager who is printing the invoices and doing all of that. So who's working in Buildertrend? We're all working in Buildertrend every day, all day, on our phones, daily logs. It's just awesome to get the text at night that, oh, my client just paid me. Oh, client just approved this selections. Oh, a change order was just approved, and everybody's live at all times with Buildertrend. It's awesome. But who actually deals with the invoicing, that kind of stuff? They come in via email. Our office manager will code them, enter them into Buildertrend, or 30% goes into a folder and the PM codes them when they come in. And that's kind of that. The bookkeeper then writes the checks. We actually write checks once a week. Everybody does it differently. So I hope that answers the question. But we're all in Buildertrend all the time for so much different information. And it's just been a fabulous program for us. There's a lot of different products out there, but this one's pretty user-friendly, easy to work with.
It's great.
Did that answer, Thomas?
Yeah, that was perfect. And I think John has spent a ton of time, like I just mentioned, building the process out that works for his team. What do you want as far as daily logs go? How do we update the schedule, change orders? He has thought through every detail, and he trains his team on it, right? They've got weekly team meetings that they're going through, and they've got, team training events throughout the year that they're making sure, and it's different people's responsibility on all this stuff. And so a lot of people do it slightly different, but it's knowing what works for you and holding your team accountable to whatever you're asking them to do. So if you're not getting daily logs, great. It's all right. What do we do? Setting up reminders for some of that stuff, having their director of pre-construction or their director of operations. Hey, I don't see your daily job logs in here. We need that. I need to know an update on this stuff. So what you measure gets results all the time. And they do a great job measuring this stuff. So
one more thing, Thomas, I forgot to ask is, ever since we started doing daily logs and all that billing through Buildertrend and everything, our phone calls have gone way down. Mm-hmm. Because the clients are getting information every day. They know things are happening, and our communication has gone way down. They don't need to call to say what happened this week or what's going on or what's happening with the hardwood floor or whatever, because it's all just happening through Buildertrend.
It's great. Anybody would sign up for less phone calls during the day? Anybody at all? Yeah, Jill, thank you for raising your hand there. Hey, y'all, please, let's thank John. Thank you so much, John, for joining us today. Like I said, just a wealth of information on this stuff. I know we did not have time to get to every last little question. So if you want to email me, my email is thomas@mybusinessonpurpose.com. Again, thomas@mybusinessonpurpose.com. If you've got a question that didn't get answered today, send that to me. We'll do another masterclass on some of that stuff and maybe segment it out a little bit, because I feel like people are using project management tools and we got to know how to use them to the best of our ability. So what I normally do at the end of these calls is, if you for some reason need help on this stuff, if you're sitting here going, I don't know how to use this, I need to talk, we need to build our processes out, we just need somebody holding our hands on some of this stuff, we would love to walk alongside you in this. And so the criteria for businesses we work with: 3 or more employees, 500K plus in revenue, and a desire to get above and out of the chaos. So if that happens to be you, this is our team right here. We're a team of 8 full-time professional coaches that work our tails off to make sure we can get you out of the chaos. And a lot of that starts with your project management, making sure that you are profitable in some of these jobs. So if you follow this QR code right here, this will get you to one of our coaches. They have set some time aside specifically for you to meet with you, 15, 20, 30 minutes, however much time you need, to give you some free coaching on that and just figure out, all right, great, what does it look like for you to just get a little bit better on those 4 pain points of people, purpose, process, and profit. So again, follow that QR code. If you want to stay on here, I'm going to let everybody else hop off of here, and I'm going to throw a link to this QR code also, that if, for some reason your camera's not working or you're using your camera right now, you can hop on. But thank you so much for that. I'll stay on for a few minutes, answer any questions, and yeah, would love to thank you guys for joining again. Hopefully we're going to do more of these and just continuing to add some value here. So before we log off, any questions quick from anybody?
will you be sending the link to the recording of this? I missed the first few minutes, and we're a Buildertrend user company, and I wanted to catch what John had.
Love it. Would you send me an email to thomas@mybusinessonpurpose.com?
I will.
And as soon as we have this link edited and uploaded, I'll get you the link to it.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're very
John,
welcome.
I loved your presentation. I missed the first few minutes of it, but we run our company very similar.
You can reach out anytime, John at builtbylandmarks.com.
Including the stamp, including the cost coding stamp.
See,
I was like, I thought I originated that
amazing.
idea.
Wow, that's the exact same thing.
It's like right there. Yeah, we cost code all of them. So we get our invoices by paper. Everybody cost codes it and then upload it to Buildertrend.
Cool.
Thanks, John.
Nice to meet you, Jill.
Nice to meet you too.
All right. Anybody else out there? Awesome. Well, again, if you would like to meet with one of our coaches for 30 minutes, I just dropped that Calendly link, same as the QR code up ahead. We would love to get some time with you and just see how we can come alongside you in your business. So thank you guys so much. John, thank you for your time, brother. Really, really appreciate you. And everybody have a great rest of your week.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.